Okay. Unlike Nikon and Canon, who both think that they're absolutely superior to anything else that lives, never issues firmware updates, and listens to nobody, Fujifilm is exactly the opposite, which is a good thing. These are recommendations for the next iteration of the Fujifilm X-T2, that would be the X-T3, and these are deeply thought out considerations on these additions to be had on the X-T3. Now, I can make predictions on the X-T3 based upon pure speculation, but hyperlogical speculation, that it will undeniably be the case that the Fujifilm X-T3 will have a touch screen. It will have superior autofocus tracking and acquisition. Most people don't realize that there are three things, and one of them is also, well, actually two of them are also lens side. The camera is not fast by itself. In combination with the lens, it is fast. We actually have acquisition, we have tracking, and then we have autofocus speed. The fastest camera in the world cannot drive autofocus fast without a really fast lens as well. But getting to the X-T3, things that need to be added to the Fujifilm X-T3. One, very important, when doing peaking outdoors where you're actually working off the LCD screen, where you're down low, you have the LCD screen flipped out, you're actually using it for macro photography, for example. I know there are hoods available for the LCD screen. They're not that great, but even switching between any different color, one thing that Nikon does have, for example on the Nikon D850, and this is because obviously with the mirror flipped up you can't see a damn thing except on the LCD screen. Well, there are many instances with the X-T2 where you are only using the LCD screen for various reasons. Everybody knows this. One thing that is lacking on the X-T2 that needs to exist on the X-T3 is super peaking. I'm just calling it super peaking. It is a much stronger level, and this exists on the Nikon D850, a much stronger level of focus peaking than the highest setting currently available. Now this could be added to the X-T2 with a firmware update, but the X-T3 definitely needs a super peak. I'm just calling it super peaking for the sake. I mean, it's higher than the highest setting on the X-T2. One thing, and that's really an intelligence, I'm not patting myself on the back, well maybe I am, but that's a really intelligent decision. It's something that does need to be added to the X-T3. One thing that exists on the Nikon that really should exist on the Fujifilm, I mean, I'm telling you, it really does. I use the front function button for playback, and people say, well, why don't you got a playback button back here. And of course I assign this front function button for a playback of images because I've usually got a speed light in my other hand. This hand is doing something with some piece of camera gear. When I want to review an image, I don't want to stick my damn hand, my other hand, up to the playback button, so I just use my middle finger and hit the front function button, and I can preview my image either through the viewfinder or the back of the LCD. Well, that's fine. That's one function button. Most Nikon DSLRs, the professional ones, have two function buttons. One thing that needs to be added, and this of course would require a mod from Fujifilm, as it is, while I do love very dearly the dials on top of the Fujifilm system, one issue is that the metering system, whether that's spot, center weight, or a matrix, needs to actually be mechanically rotated. There needs to be on the Fujifilm X-T3 an additional slot which allows, like the same as the A buttons for ISO and shutter speed, to allow for, just rotate it over to A or whatever the hell you want to assign it to allow for the metering, or what Fujifilm calls photometry, to be assigned to a function button. And this is so important because one of the main things a lot of professionals do, and what I actually do on the front of my Nikon cameras, is I have one button assigned to playback and the other button assigned to spot metering, so I can actually, Fujifilm needs to do two things. First off, need to have an additional function button on the front of the camera. One is not enough. Should not be any sort of major design issue from the fact of Fujifilm sticking another hole on the front of the chassis and just having another function button. That would be wonderful and so damn useful. And additionally to do that, they would, like I said, need to change the wheel to allow for the capability of assigning the photometry to application of the function button, which currently, you have to turn the sub dial underneath your shutter speed to actually change the photometry on the X-T2. One thing too, and I don't know which would best to do this. It would just require a larger hole, although the button itself could just be larger, and the hole could be the same size. As one of the things a lot of people have been asking for from Fujifilm. You could take one of the AE lock buttons back here. Actually, the one closest to the viewfinder is best. I have short thumbs, and even that's a perfect reach for me. Is create one of these two buttons, preferably the one closest to the viewfinder, at least 2.5 times the size, and to have that assignable as a true back button autofocus. Every Fujifilm user on earth is screaming for that to happen. So Fujifilm doesn't have a true back button autofocus. I would actually like to have it as well. It's not an issue. I got no problems. You could actually assign the press in or the rear command dial, as I made in a video, assignable to back button autofocus. So you could assign that, you press it in and use that as your back button autofocus. But there needs to be, like the AE lock button, they could keep the hole size the same on the chassis, but make the top part of the button much larger. You know, it's out of the way, so even though it's much larger, it's not going to get accidentally bumped. But there needs to be a true back button autofocus, which I know it can be assigned currently, but there needs to be a button large enough. Large enough. Yeah, so true back button autofocus, a mod to change the metering wheel for a photometry assignment, so you can assign that to a function button. There needs to be super peaking, or what I'm calling super peaking, for outdoor use, because high peaking is not high enough when you're going off the back of the LCD screen. And there are a lot of instances when you do that off the back of the LCD screen, and you're just not using the EVF for a reason. You're getting really down low for macro photography, wherever the hell else you're doing, that you need to use the LCD screen. Another front function button. And last but not least, oh please, dear Fuji, not that there's anything wrong with the X-T2 on its ISO performance, but there needs to be something comparable, or very, very close is even good enough, to high ISO performance of like the Nikon D500. I tell you what, Fujifilm, if you want to destroy Nikon, just tap dance on their skull. Just, kick their gravestone over. Just have high ISO performance, nearly as good, or mostly as good as the Nikon D500, which is just absolutely bat crap crazy. Because it is not the sensor. Most people think it's the sensor. It's not the sensor, of course. Even Fujifilm knows this. It's actually post-sensor image processing and the SNR algorithms that are applied there too. Straight out of camera high ISO performance being really, really awesome would, if you do that, Fuji, an additional front function button and super peaking, and a true back button autofocus, and a mod for the photometry wheel to assign it to capability of a function button, oh, you'll just tap dance all over Nikon's skull. Just tap dance right on Nikon's damn skull. And of course, if Fujifilm does that with the X-T3, and I know they're probably going to have a touch screen. Of course they are. Of course they are. And I know there are going to be improvements. There's going to be 0 EVF blackout. I know that's what's going to happen. It's already next to 0. I'm only doing pure speculation here, but I know this is what's going to happen, based upon logical pure speculation. 0 EVF blackout, touchscreen, bigger buffer, faster performance, faster acquisition, faster track. Much, not that I care personally, but much improved video functionality on the X-T3. Oh my god. And of course it'll be basically nearly the same sort of price point adjusted for inflation as the X-T2. Oh my god. Oh my god, the X-T3 is just going to kill everybody. It just is. You do these. These are really, really logical recommendations for the X-T3 that are highly thought out by myself. Highly. Because I field a lot of questions from people send me emails. Why doesn't the Fujifilm X-T2 have this? Why doesn't it have... And most of these are my idea, but a couple of these are things also I get from people like back button autofocus and assignable photometry to a function button. Yep. High ISO performance is really big on the list. A major gripe, and it is a legitimate gripe, because if I sit here and just like kiss Fuji's butt and say, oh, Fuji's perfect, there's nothing wrong with it, that turns me into a pathetic, worthless fanboy. Okay, it's not true. One thing that is a legitimate gripe, and it's not much of a gripe because I named this my favorite camera of all time. I got 2 of them for crying out loud. Is high ISO performance straight at a camera. I know a lot of things can be done with post-processing, ISO performance with denoise like Topaz or denoise projects, but it needs to be much, much better ISO performance straight at a camera on the X-T2 signal processing. On the X-T3 signal processing. And oh god, if Fujifilm does that and these other things, and along with what I already know, based upon pure logical I know that's exactly what's going to be on the X-T3. Not been told by anybody, but I know that's exactly what's going to be on the X-T3. Oh my god, the X-T3 is just going to murder everybody. It's just going to murder them. It just is. It's absolutely just... Nikon will just step all over top of... Fujifilm will step all over top... I don't give a damn what sort of mirrorless camera Nikon pops out of the hidden cracks and recesses of Nikon. That's what the X-T3 is going to be. Nikon, you got nothing. They're just... Nikon can't pull a rabbit out of their fanny big enough or impressive enough to top what the X-T3 will be. I just, unfortunately, I'm not a betting person, but I'm willing to bet hardcore money on that. It's just Nikon can't pull it off relative to what the X-T3 will be. There's not a snowflake's chance in hell. Not a snowflake's chance. There's no damn way. I don't care how many little technicians with their slide rulers and their measure baiting over at Nikon, what they're going to pull out of their magic hat for their mirrorless Nikon system. It's not going to top the X-T3. I'll put money on that all day long. And I know I'm right. Undeniably right. Undeniably. Thank you so much for watching. All that good stuff. The fat, ugly, bald, tattooed dude is going to go drink some more coffee. Yeah. And maybe have an apple. And then go, phew. I got so many emails to answer. I just look at my email when I wake up. I hear my phone bringing in the middle of the night with new emails. Go, bring, 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 bring. I'm like, ah. Can you say PTSD? Can you say PTSD? Can you say PTSD? There we go. Fuji!